Welcome to Business Raw with Julia Scoville. Well, today I've got amazing guest Philip, who is going to share his raw story with us. And Philip has wealth of knowledge, very interesting story as well, which I'm sure lots of you will find lots of strength from that story and lots of wisdom. Anyway, without further ado, Philip, welcome.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
In a couple of words, would you describe and give listeners and the viewers a bit of background, who you are, what do you currently do?
Yes. So, currently I'm a coach and mentor for business owners, small business owners. Although for 2026, I'm trying to launch a business community, a support community for small business owners. But I've had 38 years of experience within the small business place.
Brilliant. Well, let's dive in straight into that, your experience in business place, because when I heard your story, I thought, you know what, I really want to share that with the rest of the entrepreneurship because it is remarkable. So, and obviously the story goes in a way that you had your own business, in fact, very successful business, which was turning 6-7 figures. You were a millionaire, had luxury lifestyle, but then something drastic has happened amongst that journey. So can you take us back, like how you started your own business, like what motivated you in the first place? Like, were you always entrepreneurial? Were your parents had business? Where that kind of passion came from?
I think you really have to go all the way back to my school days, really, to figure out who I am and where I came from. I mean, I came from a good family, a secure family background. My dad was and still is actually an accountant. So I've always had the work ethic around me. But the rest of the family's always been around hospitality. When I was at school doing GCSEs, O-levels, GCEs, whatever you call them these days, I know they keep changing the name, I didn't do very well. I went to a private school, and obviously private school means that you need to excel, you need to get to certain grades, and I didn't do that. I think probably half and half. I passed half my exams, and then the others maybe a grade D. So it wasn't all bad, but it still wasn't good enough for the school. So I was asked to.
So I'm just going to pause you here. Was there any for specific reason? Like, were you not engaged at school? Were you not academic? What?
I just can't remember things. It's one of those things. And this is what I say about exams. Don't worry too much about exams at school, because all they are is they're giving you information and you've got to remember it and regurgitate it. It doesn't make any difference to anyone. And that's the thing that's wrong about the school system at the moment. Because once I left school, I then went on to college, and I knew what I wanted to do when I was at school. I wanted to get into hospitality, wanted to get into hotel management, things like that. So I went to college to do catering and finance. And it was a BTEC in catering and finance. And I excelled. I went from a D student at school to then a D student in college. The only difference was that the D stood for distinction rather than dunce at school. And the only reason why I excelled was that I was doing something that I wanted to do. That's the real difference. If you're doing something that you want to do, then you're going to put more into it. And also, it wasn't about just learning information, regurgitating it into an exam. It was about hands-on experience. I was in the kitchen, cooking food. I was in the restaurant, serving people in real time, real life. So doing those things actually made me want to do it, and I appreciated it more.
That's very interesting. The reason why I'm asking, because I can really relate, like I've got a younger son who's in private education, and he's not particularly engaged or producing amazing result as you would expect from private school, right? As a parent, you pay so much money and you think that's it, like all of a sudden you're going to have this new sciences developed, or they're going to withdraw, all of his best talents. But, like your story just shows the proof. If you're not interested in the subject, if you're not engaged, no matter what type of business.
You take that through your life, because if you're not motivated by whatever you're doing, then it's not gonna be any good. It's not gonna be the success that you expect it to be. So
Mm.
from school days, we can see what we like. I mean, my son's the same. He left school last year, and he doesn't know what he wants to do. I say to him, okay, what job do you want to do? Where do you want to go? IT, accounts, insurance. And he goes, I don't know. I don't know what I like to do. And it's so you have to find that one thing that you like doing, and then you can build on the knowledge, you can build on the experience from that.
I'm sure many parents can relate to this right now, especially who do have growing up children, that not knowing is the biggest thing, right? Like, and yourself as a coach, clarity provides you absolutely pathway and action and motivation and energy. But without that clarity, yeah, you're just wondering. So, okay, so like that's kind of how you started in life. Fast forward a little bit, how did you came to actually run your own business?
So, well, I from the beginning, when I was at college, I then went and got my first job in McDonald's, and it took me probably 18 months to get into the management level within McDonald's, and then from then, I was always at management level. I went to university, took it with me, didn't finish university again. I wasn't interested. I wasn't interested. It wasn't challenging me in any way, so I left. And that's another important key. If you're doing something that you don't like or enjoy, change it and
Mm.
don't wait, because otherwise you're going to be miserable until you wait. So just go and do it. Do things with speed. But I left there, and I spent a bit of time in catering. But the problem that I was getting was that I was looking for management jobs because that was the level that I was working. However, back then, people weren't trusting me. I was too young. I was, a 20-year-old looking for management jobs. It just wasn't happening. So I kind of came out of hospitality and went into accounts. So I did finance as part of the college work and the degree work. And my dad was an accountant. So he said, come and join me. So I joined my dad, and I actually started my own business in 91. That was 3-4 years after my education. So it's very, very young. And still today, that practice is still running. So I spent a lot of time cruising, if you like. I met my first wife, we got married, and I was just cruising. I didn't really have too much ambition. I wasn't pushing myself. Things were good. We have holidays, we had our own house and all those kind of things, both working. So we had good income, but I was cruising. And then we got divorced. And at that point, that changed everything for me, because no longer could I cruise, because I had to find another income because I'd lost an income. And so to maintain my lifestyle as it wasn't a great fancy lifestyle. It was just a normal lifestyle. But I needed that second income. And that's where everything changed. And I started to look at other forms of income. People talk about multiple forms of income, that you've got to have multiple streams. Very important if you want to build wealth. Because if you just do one thing, you're very unlikely to build wealth from it. So I started working 2 jobs. At the beginning, I went back and started in hotels, and I was working at night. So I was working at night in hotels, working in the day in the accounts, and finding a little bit of time to sleep. And as time went on, I started to change things. I came back onto days. I started to go contracting in accounts and IT eventually. And I found that actually, with my challenges, I could handle the different aspects of what I was doing. So I was starting to build companies. I was starting to build businesses that would give me the revenue that I needed, up to the point where, yes, I did become a millionaire on paper, because I was in property. So I became an accidental landlord in 96, purely because we wanted to move. And times back then, my first property I bought in 89, which was right at very, very nearly at the top of the marketplace, because interest rates were, I think, 10%, something like that.
Mm.
When you talk to people now about interest rates, 10%, And everyone told me, all the IFAs, they all told me, oh yes, great time to buy because everything's going to start coming down. It's going to start to get better. It didn't. It went worse. Went the other way. Interest rates went to 16%.
Wow.
And what that did was that all the properties, they just lost their values. My property, I bought my first property at 90,000. It went all the way down to 60,000. So I lost 30 grand. I was in arrears. Interest rate was 16%. These days, people have it easy. You know, it's, you know, interest rates, what are they now? 3-4%. It's crazy.
A bit more than that, but yeah, I know what you mean. It's very different.
6-7%, but you know, as they're more commercial rates. But those kind of things, they build resilience within you once you go through them. So I made my millions in property, but then I was also a 6-figure earner with my day-to-day businesses.
So can I just clarify? You said you went to work as an IT consultant, and then you said I was turning around businesses. So was that part of your consultancy work that once you deployed, you've noticed that actually you've got the skill set and can help companies to do better?
It was more about myself building companies. So having different companies and building them up rather than helping other people turn around their businesses. So they were all, I was just creating more businesses. So I had the accountancy practice. I was doing contracting in both accounts and IT. I had a yacht business, chartering down in Mallorca, which was really about fractional ownership in expensive yachts. So those, and obviously the property side of things. So I had multiple streams of income coming in. And then at one point I needed a challenge. I'm always looking for the next challenge, the next thing, because I'm kind of bored with one thing. And this opportunity came up that I was doing some work with communications company up in Cambridge, near Cambridge. And they were dealing with mobile phones. They were doing wholesaling, and they were doing retail as well. And they said, we want to open up a logistics hub near Heathrow. And I thought, well, you know what? I haven't done that before. Let's give that a go, because I can do that. That's what I do. So I created the business. It was a logistics business, very secure. Security was well over the top, but it had to be for the type of goods that we were transporting. And I did that for a couple of years and I absolutely hated it. It wasn't aligned with myself and what I wanted to do, really. So I gave it 2 years, very high pressure job. HMRC were on my back continuously because there was lots of fraud going on in the industry. But what I was doing was trying to ensure that I was on the right side of the law, if you like, always, talking with HMRC, asking them questions, making sure that what I was doing was the right thing. After 2 years, I kind of left that, and then I found a recruitment group. I then helped to build up. They wanted to grow, and so we grew one of the companies, the main company. We grew from 20 staff up to 55, 60, 70 in 18 months. Wow. It was very, very quick growth, and moved offices twice in that time as well.
What would you say was success in that growth? It's quite rapid growth. What was the key success?
So the rapid success was down to the directors being open to employ people, because that's the key to it. And what you have to remember is when you employ people, you have to spend money on training them. You have to spend money on recruitment fees, possibly. And you have to understand that in the first 3 months of their employment, you're probably not going to get too much from it. So they were willing to see a downturn in their profits for those 3 months in order to grow in the future. So it's about long-term thinking and understanding that in the meantime, in the short term, you have to spend in order to grow.
So is that mindset? Because what I'm encountering, lots of business owners got this chicken and egg situation. Like, I need to employ people, but I don't have enough income in a business to spend salary. And where is the guarantee that, the work is coming? So would you say it's mostly down to the mindset and the vision?
It's the mindset, and because the mindset is about risk. It's about risk taking, being open to go out and get the money to do that, because a lot of people think, oh, I don't want to borrow too much. But the thing about business is that, businesses run on debt. If you want to grow your business, then you need to have the debt in order to allow you to grow. Depends on what type of debt you want. We were doing a lot of factoring, so invoice financing, those kind of things. So that was running the company. And because we were dealing with a lot of contracting as well, it meant that the cash flow was flowing. So it wasn't just about placing permanent staff when maybe you have to wait 30 days, 60 days, 120 days before an invoice is paid. We had the contracting side of things where everything's paid every 2 weeks, every 30 days. So the money was cash flowing nicely. So when you've got a facility that will cover that, then things start to work really well. And by having the good relationships with your bank is paramount as well, because then they'll say, oh yes, okay, we don't mind that, we can do that. It can be troublesome, and you do. I remember they were always used to say, you need more money on the balance sheet, because the directors used to. It was a lifestyle business, They used to take money out. They used to take dividends every quarter, and they used to leave as little as possible on the balance sheet itself. But the bank, obviously protecting their interests, they're always, no, you need a bit more money on the balance sheet so we can sleep at night.
So, like in your journey, I've got a number of questions now because there is so much, right, going on. The question was originally how you started your first business. And traditionally, like I come across many business owners who only just see one business and they dedicate their life, they basically everything to one. And like if you offer them and say, would you like to run another one or another two or three, it just will be beyond beyond what they're capable, beyond their imagination. You're obviously quite different. Like you thought in different ways straight away. Tell me more about that. How you came to, I guess, that realization that actually one business is not enough.
It was really because I had to. When I left school and I was in the businesses that I was for that 10-year period, I didn't have that ambition. Things were good with that one business. But then when I got divorced and I had to find the money to pay the bills, find the money to pay the two mortgages, the one that was in arrears as well, it was a case of, I have to do something. I don't have any choice. And like a lot of people these days, they have, 2 jobs, 3 jobs just to pay the bills, So it was something that I needed to do. And once I got into it, I thought, oh, okay. And that's what sowed the seed. And then as the tree was growing, as the tree was blossoming, I found myself thinking, actually, I'm enjoying this. This is good. And it wasn't, I always say it wasn't so much for the money, because I've never had a lavish lifestyle or anything like that, but I've been comfortable. I've had holidays and things like that. And people say, oh, you didn't have a lavish lifestyle, but you went out and bought a yacht and things like that. And it's like, yeah, but that was for business. Okay, I enjoyed it socially, but in the true sense, that was for business. I became addicted, but I enjoyed the process of starting businesses, of creating businesses. And I'm not going to say I had total risk, because I don't see myself as a risk taker at all, really. But I used to take more risks than most people would. I mean, if you take buying the yacht, for example, I wanted the yacht business, and I thought, well, hang on a minute, I need something to show. I need something to show people what they're buying into and those kind of things. Oh, okay, how do I buy a yacht? And I was like, okay, go get finance. I had a bit of money for the deposit, and I thought, okay, fine, just do it. And so I went and I got the finance, and I had to find the money for the finance, but then that spurs you on to build your business and do more for your business. Obviously, things have changed. Going back 40 years ago, things were easier. Going back 20 years ago, if we go back to the mid-2000s, things were so much easier because the banks were throwing money at you. You could self-certify. I mean, that those are crazy times
Yeah.
when you could self-certify your income and the banks would just give you everything. And that's why we had the crash in 2008, because people were just being reckless. And when you're a risk taker, you're not reckless. You're taking the risks, but you understand the mechanisms and you understand that, okay, what do I need to do to pay that money back? What do I need to build to pay that money back, to make it sustainable? Because if you don't have that, then it will fall over.
You calculate your risk. It's interesting what you said. It's almost like coming back to your childhood experience. You like once you love doing what you do, you apply yourself, you throw yourself, you give it all. But things like not, kind of spur you or not, excite you, you just like lose interest. And also one thing you mentioned about divorce, like lots of people say divorce is like a basically financial bankruptcy. It's really is, it's two finances splitting in, sorry, one finance splitting into two, but usually it's not just equal measures and it's not what it was before. Together is much more, and it definitely affects lots of people. And I've seen that, like from personal experiences and encountering people. So that's really interesting. So that kind of experience spurred you to take risk and realize I need more than just one stream of income. You went into it, you realize actually I'm quite good at this, I can do multiple things. My following question will be, and I'm sure like listeners and viewers will be thinking exactly the same, how did you juggle it all? Because, like having so many businesses or so many engagements, there is only still one of you.
Being organized.
Mm.
That's the key to it, really. Knowing and understanding your businesses and what you're doing. Everything takes time. And you have to make sure that you're allocating time for those different businesses and being organized so you know what you're doing and where you're going. Again, the world has changed now because we have social media now and different ways of doing business, which has changed things so much. I mean, now I spend so much time doing my social media posts. It's just stupid. It's something that I'd rather not do, but I have to do it to make sure I have that visibility. In those days, we didn't get our visibility like that. A lot of things that I did was I used to advertise in magazines and go to different events, different shows, and meet people in that way. I never used to go networking. That was never on my radar. So things were very different then. And I did used to go on some groups. So there were communities around at that time, and I used to answer questions on groups and those kind of things. So that raises your visibility and your credibility. So then people started to trust you. I think that was the main thing in my early businesses. When I did the logistics business, that was someone else's dream. It wasn't my dream. I was building it for someone else.
Tell me more about that, because building someone else's dream, like where's motivation is coming, right?
Absolutely, and that's one of the reasons why I say I didn't like it. I hated it because it wasn't my dream. I thought when I first took it on, I thought, okay, I can do this. It's a challenge. I'm building something up. But once it was built, once I was running it, it was then, oh, okay, yeah. It seemed like a burden more than a dream because it wasn't mine. And that's a problem why people don't realize their dreams, because they're too busy trying to realize someone else's. New Year's resolutions are a great proof of this fact. You're supposed to, you're supposed to lose weight, or you're supposed to look better, or you're supposed to get fitter, and all these kind of things. If you really ask yourself, do I want to do those things? You don't. But you make the resolutions anyway because you think that's what you're supposed to do. You think, society tells us this is what you should do. It's all rubbish. You need to look at yourself and think, okay, what is it that I want to do and how do I do that? Rather than thinking, okay, society wants me to do this. Society wants me to work in a job for 40 years and then get my pension after it. Society wants me, what does society look like when I'm rich? Oh, it's the big house, fast car, and all this kind of stuff. It's not. It's rubbish, because not everyone wants a big house. Why do you want a big house? I must admit, many years ago, that was my thinking. Oh, need the big house, and I was always working my way to get the big house. But actually, once I got to my 3-bed semi that had everything I needed within it, I was like, I don't need a big house. I have everything here. Why do I need 6 bedrooms? I'm never going to get used. I've got a spare bedroom now. That doesn't get used. So why do I need another 4? It's those kind of things.
Yeah.
Going back to the logistics company, it was something that wasn't aligned with me. I didn't enjoy it.
Were you in partnership with that in that company?
It was my company. So the businesses in Cambridge, they put the money up. So they loaned me the money, and they said, we'll bring you the business and make sure that it's a success and all those kind of things. So I built it using their money, but really it was more about them than me. It was more a vehicle for them to increase their business rather than for me to increase my business in a way.
They will leverage you, really, isn't it? You like being person on the ground, wealth of knowledge, expertise. They can trust you. Ultimately, like you said, you're building their dream, they're making the money.
Yeah. And like you say, going back to school, it wasn't what I really wanted to do. It didn't fit my narrative, and that's why I gave it 2 years. I'm the sort of person that goes by my word. My word is my bond. So I told them, okay, I'm going to do this for 2 years. Let's see how it goes. And so once I was in it and seeing that I wasn't really enjoying it, I thought, well, I'm going to give it 2 years. It's only 2 years. I've given my word. I'm going to see it through to the end, because that's the sort of person I am.
It's quite brave of you to realize those things and actually say, no, I have to cut it out, because I feel, and I come across so many people who being stuck in doing something that they don't want, they don't enjoy, they don't get pleasure out of it. It grinds them. They feel like hostage to their own business or to their own activity. And like, basically there is no light. You obviously have got different way of thinking, and like having this amazing opportunity, which seems on paper, right, but doesn't fulfill your soul. You said 2 years and I'll be out of it. That's such a clear vision as well for you, and being so, I guess, true to yourself, right?
It's one of those things that you have to, again, it comes down to the mindset aspect, and you have to set yourself goals and deadlines and know where you're going. Because if you don't know where you're going, you're just going to,
And that was
you get a scattergun approach, and maybe you'll end up where you want to be, and maybe you won't. And I've had it as well. It's not just when you have a business that you don't enjoy, but it's also you have a business that you do enjoy, but it's not giving you the results. And what happens is that then you keep going, oh, well, maybe next month will be better. And next month will be better. And oh, maybe in the future. And you keep holding on to something because it's your baby. And I've had that recently. I had a catering business through COVID. So I started it in COVID. After 3 years, I was kind of still holding on to it, because the business had kind of drastically reduced because we came out of COVID, everyone went back to work. And I was kind of holding on to it. But there came a point in time where it was like, no, why am I holding on to this? It's not doing anything. It's not serving me. It needs to go. And sometimes that is one of the hardest things to do, because you're cutting off something that you believe in. But actually what you're doing is you're not putting the focus into that business, and you're not growing it as maybe you would have liked or you wanted to. And so you have to cut the ties.
So it's almost that external feedback, isn't it? If you're not getting what you wanted from that business, maybe it's a good time to have a thorough look. And I can really relate to that. Like myself as an entrepreneur, I've set up a number of different like ventures or startups and had to cut them. And it was painful, like you said, because you invested so much. You think I've got the brand, I've got customers, I've got testimonials, I've got website, I've got all this, and I spend so much of my time and nights, creating all this. But at the end of the day, I think, yeah, you have to be honest with yourself and just take the plunge. And I guess also actually those experiences led me to become exit ready coach, because it's made me realize if you're not exit ready, you just walk away from a business. Whereas actually, if you can monetize it, why not? You just monetize it, exit, and go and do something else.
Absolutely. It's always when you're starting up businesses, you need to have the end in mind. It's why am I starting this business? What do I want it to look like? Where's it going? Am I going to keep it forever, or is there going to be a point in time where I'm going to get out? Okay, when I get out, what's it going to look like? And who am I going to give it to? And who's going to buy it? And those kind of things. So a lot of things is we need to be looking at these things because people don't.
Absolutely. So tell me more. So you said those 2 years, right? So they passed. Then what happened?
So after that, I went into the recruitment and I was helping them out. But in the background, there was something sinister that was going on. And it culminated in 2010. I ended up on a fraud trial up in Birmingham that was related to the mobile phones that we were transporting from the logistics business.
So this is the business that you set up with Cambridge.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely. So HMRC decided that I was involved in the fraud that was going on within the warehouse, and they just tagged me onto a trial with some fraudsters that had used my warehouse. And in 2010, I had a 6-month trial. So you can imagine I was going up. So I'm in London and I'm going up to Birmingham every week, had to stay over up in Birmingham, do the trial, and then come back home. So I did that at the weekend. So I did that for 6 months.
Can I just ask you a question? Because, like you said, fraudsters use your warehouse. Can you give us a bit of more background what happened and how have you actually were aware this was happening, or you literally just receive a letter and like, what the heck is going on? Tell me more about that specific thing.
Back then, I mean, these kind of frauds are still going on these days as well. So it's all about importing and exporting goods.
Mm-hmm.
So you'll get the fraudsters that import goods, and then they go through a series of events, buy and sell, and then the final person will then export them out of the country. So the exporter can reclaim their VAT. And at the point of import, you're supposed to pay VAT on the goods, but they didn't. So they hid the companies, and they called them missing traders because they're missing from the chain. And that's what happened. So there was the guys that were in question that were on trial. This is what they did. They imported the goods through a company. The company wasn't showing anywhere, but didn't pay the VAT. And
So
that's how
they
they
targeted your company specifically to commit, like, is that's the common theme, like that goes out there, they target companies to commit those kind of financial frauds.
Yeah. It's very common as well. It still happens to this day with various things. From my point of view, when I see the paperwork, there isn't a missing trader. So if you imagine A sells to B, sells to C, if you imagine B is the missing trader. So when I see the paperwork, A sells to C. So B doesn't even show anywhere. So from my point of view, I don't know that there's a missing trader because it's missing. Even from me, it's missing. And also, we had to jump through hoops with HMRC as well. We had to do so many different things, and that's one of the reasons why I thought we were running as best as we could, because we're jumping through all the hoops with HMRC. They're coming into the warehouse regularly. They were even taking stock away to make sure it's real and all those kind of things. Nothing negative ever came back. So my hands were tied. I was doing what they wanted. And I once asked them, okay, what more should I be doing? And their response was, well, you just carry on doing what you're doing.
So even at that moment, you already had encounter with HMRC. and were like, I guess, engaged with them, like you said, seeking feedback, and they said, keep doing it, everything is fine in your business. So you were completely not aware that something is happening, and then you receive a letter saying that there is an invitation to tribunal.
No. So when I got arrested,
So hold on a second. So you conducting your business, not aware this is happening. When was the first time you realized something is wrong? What
after
happened?
I left the business, so I left the business, and then they arrested me. They couldn't find me, first of all, because I was in a meeting in Chesterfield, so I was a long way away. But they came and they raided my house, searched my house.
So unexpectedly, you didn't know that.
Didn't know.
So literally just one day, knock on the door, police raiding your house, doing the search.
Yeah, it wasn't the police, it was HMRC.
Oh, okay.
Law unto themselves. They're separate from the police. But yeah, so they raided my house. I wasn't there. So then they went round all my rented properties, knocking on the doors, looking for me because they couldn't find me, because they thought I was a flight risk and I'd gone and all this kind of stuff. Couldn't be further from the truth. I was just in a meeting and not at home. But yeah, they arrested me. And then they arrested me in 2006.
Were you actually in a meeting and they arrested you whilst you were in a meeting, or you finished?
No. So they were looking for me. And then on my way home, I had a phone call, or I phoned them actually, because someone else told me they were looking for me. And so we arranged to meet at the police station and all this kind of stuff. So it was all done.
When you had that phone call and first time someone said, there is someone is looking for you, what went through your head in that moment?
Disbelief, panic, because I remember it well, because I was on a train and my phone battery was near enough dead. And I actually, because it was my wife at the time, she phoned me and said, "Oh, there's people in the house, there's, and all this kind of stuff." So she's panicking, and then I'm getting this call and I'm thinking, what the hell, what is this all about? I had no idea. And so I had disbelief, I had panic. I had to use someone sitting next to me on the train. I had to use their phone to phone back because my phone had died. And that's when we said, okay, arrange to meet in the police station the next morning and all this kind of stuff. So go to the police station. I'm then arrested, loads of interviews at the police station, that kind of thing. And then it just started the process of.
So, when you were at the police station, they obviously stated the reason, why you've been arrested. Did that kind of sink in with you? Did you kind of thought, okay, I can see that maybe something is wrong, or you just completely, they got this wrong, it's not me, disbelief? What were you thinking?
Well, I could see why I was there, but from my perspective, I was like, well, okay, this isn't going to go anywhere because, I've got nothing to hide. I'm not hiding anything. I'm not doing anything wrong. And then when they charged me, I was like, oh, why are they charging me? What, hang on a minute, something's not adding up. Then it was on to the trial process, which is very long-winded, lots of meetings with your solicitors and barristers, and paperwork is immense. Paperwork is stupid.
How did you finance because you are out of the company?
Legal aid. And when you have legal aid, something that you really must understand is when you have legal aid, you haven't got a hope in hell. Basically, you're not going to get a defence. You go through the motions, but really, your defence barristers they're not getting paid to do what they do best. They're only getting paid a proportion. So if you imagine you're doing a job, only getting paid a small proportion, are you going to give them the best? No. I can't remember the guy's name. Do you remember the guy, Autonomy? Do you remember the big case with Autonomy? And he died last year, didn't he, on his boat when his boat sank in Italy. But he summed it up perfectly because he was acquitted in America when he was up on his fraud trial, or his fraud charges for Autonomy. And he summed it up perfectly. He said, unless you can pay for your defence, you're not going to have a defence.
Isn't that incredible? It's meant to be justice system, right? Square and fair, but it's all dictated by how good is your lawyer, how much money you have, what you can afford. Still,
and also who's on your jury. because it was. They say your jury are your peers. However, if your peers aren't the sort of people that understand the intricacies of what the trial is about, I mean, you ask anyone that, how do you make £1,000,000? People are going to go, well, not many people do that. You're doing something wrong. My trial was all about millions of pounds. I mean, the main fraud was 52 million.
Wow.
So when you're talking about those kind of numbers, I mean, even I could go on all night about the injustices, the lies. It's just
It's interesting what you said about the juries because it's so subjective, right? And it's all down to human beings. And, both of us coaches, we understand how the mindset works. And like I work a lot with a money mindset with the business owners because to reach millions, if you've never done this before, if you never came from family of wealth, like you will have those blockages, you will have negative beliefs around big money, about people who make big money. So if like usually most likely the jury, right, it's people, normal people from day-to-day lives, not millionaires and business owners. You might get one, right, if you get lucky. But again, just by, I guess, statistics, most likely their beliefs will be quite negative around big money because they never encountered that. So straight away you're on a back foot. I've never actually thought of that. Like that's like the power.
my jury were I didn't have any business people on my jury, people who understand money. They were people on benefits, they were single mothers, they were retired people, because they're the only ones that had the time to spend on the jury. I mean, you imagine this jury was 6 months. My second jury was 3 months. So it's a long time. So when you say, it's a jury of my peers, they weren't my peers. They weren't at my level. So they didn't have that understanding. And, even when you look at me and you go, well, you think of what a fraudster looks like. They're hiding things. They're doing this, doing that, doing the other. I mean, HMRC even said that all of my earnings were legitimate earnings. Well, if all of my earnings are legitimate earnings, then where's the fraud? I don't know. I wasn't hiding anything. So, they even said all your records are meticulous. Well, fraudsters don't do that. Fraudsters do everything they can to hide things, to put you off the scent, to confuse you. So when you look at being the stereotypical fraudster, you're looking at the wrong person, because nothing steered them to that. The first trial I had, it ended up as a hung jury for me, because they couldn't make up their mind either way. Second trial, more of a shambles than anything else. Jury were out for 5 days. The judge. So what happens when a jury goes out is that you're given time to come up with a verdict. If you can't come up with a verdict, a majority, then the judge will go, okay, no, not a majority, it's unanimous. So if you can't come up with unanimous, then the judge says, okay, I'll accept a 10-2 majority. And if you can't come up with a 10-2 majority, it's then a hung jury. So my jury, they went out, they couldn't come up with unanimous. So they were allowed to have the 10-2. They couldn't come up with a 10-2. And the judge just kept pushing. He didn't allow them to have a hung jury. He wanted a verdict. And he just kept pushing. So at the end of the fifth day, they came back with a verdict. And that verdict was guilty, which actually shocked everyone.
So, like you in court, the judge is out there about to read out the verdict. Before he read it out, what were you thinking in that moment? Like what was, I just can't even imagine.
Just nothing there. You're just blank. You're numb, because you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know whether it's this or that, and
You don't have control.
Exactly. I remember I was having meetings with my barristers, and they're like, okay, well, this could happen. Okay, what you're always looking at worst case scenario, and you just think, oh, I don't know. And then when it does happen, boom, it's just, I could feel my legs shaking like jelly, and you just then get taken back down the stairs and into the cells under the courts. And one of the things that really got me was that at sentencing, they made me a deal. They said, okay, we'll knock a year off if you can tell us more information. I'd love to knock the year off, but I don't have information because I'm not involved. I don't know who the ringleaders are. I don't know, I don't know these people because I don't deal with them. So I couldn't get a year off.
So how long was your sentence?
So the sentence was 6.5 years. And I should have got 4 years, but I got 6.5 years because the judge said I was the kingpin of the operation.
Wow.
So, to make matters worse, he saw me as being the kingpin. So I was the person organising everything, which was so far from the truth. It was unbelievable. So I got 6.5 years, which meant I spent 39 months in prison.
How old were you when that happened?
42.
Wow. So 42, you obviously built a lot, you've done a lot. It's a time to think about maybe, in a few years' time, it's retirement, enjoying your life, enjoying the fruits of your labor. And all of a sudden, your freedom just gone like that.
Yeah. And it is just that. Because, 1 minute you're in the dock, the next minute you're being taken downstairs, and that's gone. There's no reprieve. There's no, we'll give you
Transition or go home, get clothes, whatever. That's it.
We'll give you 10 minutes to say goodbye to your loved ones and all that kind of stuff. It's nothing. It is just literally that immediate, and you go down.
Wow. So you had son. Your son was already born at that time?
Yeah. So my son was 6. 5. He was 5 at that time.
Did you see him? Did you have a chance to say goodbye before?
Well, not outside of the normal goodbye, dad's going to work and all that kind of stuff. No.
Did you have a conversation with him beforehand? No, just kept him completely.
Yeah, he didn't know anything. He was, because the thing is, it's from my point of view, where I was, my mindset was, well, I've got nothing to worry about because I'm innocent, and I'd never been through this kind of thing in my life, I didn't even expect to go through this type of thing in my life. So you kind of believe that if you are innocent, you don't have anything to worry about.
And there is a justice system, right, that will take care.
Yeah, that's what people always say about all these different things, whether it's digital ID and those kind of things. It's like, well, if you've got nothing to hide, you've got nothing to worry about. Couldn't be further from the truth. Everyone has got something to worry about, regardless of whether you're squeaky clean. Anything can happen at any moment in time.
You just don't know. Yeah, I totally agree with that. You just don't know what's around the corner. Life throws lemons at you. Accept that it's gonna happen. So okay, and at the time you said you went through divorce. So your ex-wife, right? Did you have a partner at that time to say goodbye to?
So at the time I was with my second wife at that time. So we had my child and everything. So she was at court to see me go down and everything. And then we tried to manage things through the sentence, but a lot of technical stuff was going on in the background and everything, and she didn't agree with it, and so the marriage just broke down basically. So that didn't work.
So before the I guess the verdict, you had relationship, but then afterwards, that's when the relationship started breaking down.
Yeah, probably about 18 months after
Right.
I was in prison.
Wow.
The relationship fell over just because of the legal stuff that I was going through, because it didn't stop when I was sentenced. They then go through a proceeds of crime report. They then say, well, you've made this money, you have to pay it back, basically. And they said I had to pay back a lot of money.
Wow. And obviously, you being family unit, it's like the finances together, so she was affected, I guess, as well, right?
She was, and I had to make certain deals and this kind of stuff and bits and pieces. So it was a long drawn out process, but it was still it's I still have it over my head now because I will never be able to pay that debt off. So it will live with me till I die, basically.
Has your son found out?
I had a conversation with him last year, no, 2 years ago. Yeah, 2 years ago. We went away together.
So your son didn't know at all, like dad just disappeared, and
We ask ourselves how much do kids know and that kind of stuff. He used to
especially
come up.
when things happening right in the household anyway.
Exactly. He used to come and visit me. We used to have family days and that kind of thing. So he used to come up. Whether he really knew what was going on, I don't know. But then when I was back on the scene, it was more about me getting visitation rights to actually see him,
Wow.
because that was an uphill struggle.
So did you go through divorce whilst you were in prison?
Yeah. It was whilst I was in prison.
Wow, that must have been so tough. I can't even imagine. Wow.
Yeah. So it was, So then I had to get the visitation to see him
Mm.
again, because at that point, then my ex had moved away. She moved nearer her mum down in Medway in Kent. So that meant that, if I wanted to see my son, I had to travel down to see him, which obviously put more strain and stress on me. But, he's my son. I'm going to do that. I'm going to do whatever I can. So now we have a great relationship. But 2 years ago, I took him away, went to Cyprus, and I thought, you know what, now's the time to have that conversation. He was, I could see he was of adulthood. He's really clever and down to earth and grounded. So I thought, right, now's the time to have that conversation. So we had the conversation. He was fine about it, everything. I said, do you ever remember, those times? And he said, no, not really.
Mm.
So, he hasn't hung on to those times or looked to see how he can, what he takes from those times, which is good. But yeah, so he was accepting of it. He understood it. And so everything's good on that side.
Brilliant. So let's rewind back on that day when they took you and you realized your freedom is taken away from you, and it was announced for 6 years. Like you were in disbelief that that potentially can happen, but now it's actually has happened. So how's that affected you? So like what was your first day in a prison cell was like?
Yeah, I think it was just numbness. But the thing is, I adapt. Whatever my surroundings are, I can adapt to them. So even though they were very negative, first night going in there, hearing the door locked behind you, steel doors, they make a noise. Sharing a room with someone you don't know, the sort of person that you don't hang around with, was interesting, to say the least. It was. I don't know how I got through it. To be fair, those first 2 weeks, 2 or 3 weeks, were just a haze, I guess. I don't know how I got through. I just followed. I went through the motions. There was no emotion within it. It was just. I always used to be the sort of person that I don't show emotions. Men don't talk about these things, and men don't show emotions, and men don't cry, and all that kind of stuff. I tend to cry a lot more now. It's
Mhm.
weird, actually. Now I've been through the process, my emotions are completely shot. I'll cry at something on the TV, and that kind of thing. Whereas before, I never would have done that.
There is a
So
good phrase they use it being emotionally constipated.
probably, yeah, probably that's quite a good one. Yeah. So the first few weeks took me to get settled, because I was then moved from prison to prison, kind of thing, and then eventually after 2-3 months, I got my own room, which I had the key to my door. I could come and go as I wanted to. I got a good job within the prison.
Job.
Yeah. So it was a working prison. So everyone had a job, whether that was learning or whatever it would be. So I had a job with it's called resettlement. I was interviewing all the new inmates that were coming in to see what their learning needs were or where they could be placed in the prison and all this kind of stuff. So I was doing that. So then I had a pass to go around the whole prison. So I could just have free movement, really, which was quite good. But then sometimes it would just hit you that the intimidation is huge.
Mm.
You know, the gates closed, you're being locked up all the time. You don't have your freedom. You don't have control over anything.
And
So,
you live by someone else's regime as well. You've been told what time to eat, what time to go to bed, what time to wake up.
that's not too bad because it's that's just habit. You know, it's we do it. We should do it. You know, get into habits and routines and those kind of things. So for me, it wasn't that bad. You know, but then I'm not the sort of person that rebels against things.
Mm.
You know, you get the real criminals in there and they're always, you know, looking for fights and this and that and the other because they can't get their own way, because they want to do their own thing. Because, you know, I'm just someone that complies. I just do the right thing. I just, you know, follow the motions. Oh, this is what I've got to do. Okay, that's what I'm going to do. You know, I don't fight back. I don't try and fight the process or authority or anything like that, you know. So if you don't rebel, then it's fine. You know, I got my 3 meals a day. I got, you know, eventually we used to go to the gym every Saturday morning and play paddle tennis and those kind of things. It was, you know, we had our routines and it was okay. You know, it was not as bad as people make out it to be, although it depends where you are. I mean, in July 2011, you know, 3 months after I got in there, you know, I think that's when it hit me. I did feel very low. I remember I was crunched up on my bed. Sun was streaming through the window. It was late afternoon. And I just kind of wanted to end it all, to be honest. I didn't see a reason for carrying on. I thought, what am I doing here? It was so far from who I am. It was just, I don't know. And it was because of a picture of my son on my wall that saved me. It was like, that's the reason why I'm doing it. He's the one that's keeping me sane. And from that day on, it was like, okay, I flicked the switch. I wasn't looking back. I wasn't seeking revenge. I don't know who I was seeking revenge on, but I was seeking revenge. And it was that anger and everything that comes with it. But from that point on, it was like, okay, no, I need to look forward. I need to think, okay, what am I going to do when I get out? What's my new path going to be? What can I do? I was naive going in. I was naive about the whole process. And I was naive about going in, and I was naive about coming out. So when I was in there, I was doing lots of learning. I started working in education. So I became, in effect, a teaching assistant. So I was helping people with their maths and their English, doing lots of learning myself. Became a mentor in the education department. I was creating business plans. Bizarrely, I created a business plan for the business that I do now, you know, business coaching. It was the business was going to be called Evolve.
Mm-hmm.
And I created that before I came out. And then when it got to coming out, so I always kept myself busy learning, doing new things. And when I came out, I thought I could just go back to my old life. Unfortunately, that's not the case. I couldn't go back to my old life. You know, I thought maybe I could go back to my old job and all this kind of stuff. Couldn't do that. I didn't have anywhere to live because obviously, you know, the divorce and all that kind of stuff. So I didn't have that. So I ended up staying with my parents. I didn't have any money because everything had been taken away from me. I was a pauper. I was a 16-year-old child again because I
Wow.
was living with my parents.
It's
No
just like
job, no
everything
car,
off, you start
no
from
nothing.
literally just nothing, nothing.
From nothing. I started from nothing.
And how old were you by that time?
So 45. Yeah, so it's 3 years. I was inside for 3 years. So then, my friend, he had a stationery business. He said, "I'll come and work with me, and we'll do things together," which is great.
I just want to ask. So, like you said, I came out and I was thinking I'll come back to my old life. But old life means also the relationship, the friends, the reputation,
Yeah.
all that stuff. So, what has happened there? Did you manage to save some relationship? Did some people actually turn on you? How did that affected you?
I still have my best mate who's he's been with me all the way along. Other people, I guess, friendships and that kind of thing just went by the wayside. There's a lot of people that I just don't talk to anymore. A lot of my, bit sad really, but I think a lot of my friendships and everything were really based around business,
Mm.
acquaintances, and that kind of thing. So they all just went because I was no longer doing whatever I was doing.
Mm.
So I don't suppose I had many friends really. I mean, I don't have many friends anyway. So, or people that I would call friends. So it was difficult. I didn't have a job. I didn't, my marriage had gone down. So yeah, I only had, 2 or 3 friends or people that I can call friends. One of them is now my partner that actually had any time of day for me, really, at that point anyway.
So you're coming back, realizing old life doesn't exist anymore. I can't have it. I need to build new life. I need to do something, right? Like what's been happening? I guess like that must be roller coaster in itself, like lots of realizations. I know you were talking about even like simple things like opening bank account, not straightforward.
Everything that I knew was gone because I now have I've got a fraud conviction, white collar crime. It's to go with that. It means you can't do anything. You can't open bank accounts. You can't get insurance. You can't get loans. You can't get mortgages. My old life as an accountant, can't be an accountant because I'm not fit and proper is the word or the phrase. I can't be in property because I'm not fit and proper. I can't rent a house because I'm not fit and proper. I can't buy a house because I can't get a mortgage. I basically can't do anything in life
Because
because
everything relates around finances, isn't it?
everything relates around everything, fit and proper, or the conviction and everything. So life was very difficult, and the authority that is there to help you don't help you. They haven't got a clue. They can't help you. They really haven't got a clue. They can't help you with housing. They can't help you with benefits. They can't help you with finding a job. They can't help you with anything. I used to go to my probation every week and just argue with them, and they'd sit there and go, "Yeah, you're right." They just couldn't. I had to go for that for 3 years to endure that. Just a complete waste of time.
Mm.
So I was lucky that I had my friend who said, "Okay, well, come and work with me. Let's see what we can do." And in a way, that was a learning curve as well, because at that point I started to go networking. I started to, because I was promoting the business and everything, and that's when I started to learn all my mistakes. I started to, I was pretending to be someone else. I wasn't being me. I was using a different name. I was, so many things because I was ashamed, embarrassed about the past and how people would react.
So you were hiding, you went into like kind of mode of hiding the past and creating this new persona and try to be someone who you're not.
Yeah, because I thought, well, hang on, I've got to create a new life here. So with a new life comes a new name and all this kind of stuff. And after about 2.5, 3 years, some people started to figure out. Obviously, Google is that wonderful thing,
Mm.
Google me, you'll find out who I am. I thought, oh God, I've got to explain myself now. I've got to sit across these people and tell them my story. And I firmly believed that they would be so judgmental that they wouldn't talk to me again. I was like, okay, right, well, here goes. Okay, I know this person's sitting opposite me. Nice to know them. I know they're not going to talk to me again, but here goes. So I go through my story, and at the end of it, they'd be like, wow, so inspirational. And I was a bit taken aback. And I was like, what? How's that inspirational? And they said, well, you're still here. I was like, oh, okay. So for me, it was kind of, I get something from it because I get to talk about it. They get something from it because they're being inspired. They go, oh, I thought my life was bad. Wow, it's nothing like yours. What am I complaining about? So I inspired them to actually go and do something else. So at that point I thought, okay, well, maybe I need to talk about it. So then I went on my journey of speaker training, learning to be a speaker and getting on stage. So in 2019, everything culminated together. And I then became a public speaker and a business coach. So I brought it all together. And then in 2020, obviously, we know that COVID hit and everything kind of came crashing to a halt again because I couldn't get on stages anymore. I was still doing a bit on with network marketing. So I was still using my skills on Zoom, something that many people hadn't heard of before COVID, but we'd been using it for about 4 or 5 years. So we kind of knew it. But I started creating support groups on Zoom for business owners, those kind of things. So it was a great time. But then I got bored, needed a challenge. So that's when I created my bakery.
Bakery?
Yeah, to start to do cream teas and afternoon teas.
Wow, Philip, I didn't actually had no idea that you even had a bakery. But you definitely follow your path. You can't just be just one. It's multiple engagement.
I'm an entrepreneur in my DNA. I can't just do one thing and be happy with it. I get bored and I need more things. But the thing is, I'm in a conflict. So a lot of people that I deal with, they're in a conflict in their minds. It's all about mindset. It's all about ceilings. It's all about negative beliefs, limiting beliefs, things that they think they can't do. Whereas all of my negativity, all of my barriers, they're actually all physical. I can't do anything with them. My conviction, I can't do anything about that. I have to live by someone else's rules. The financial status, I can't do anything with that. Someone else's rules. So there's so many, all my barriers are someone else's barriers. And no matter what I do, I can't get through them. If I earn lots and lots of money, the chances are that they'll come and take it. So, when I have my aspirations, I have to put a ceiling on them. What's the point? What's the point of me trying to build something? It's no point because someone will just come and take it away. So there's just no point. And I've been living like that for a few years. But this year, I've finally got to the point where I'm finding my identity again.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought I knew my identity, but I don't. And that's the thing about coaching that I've learned is that it's not, it doesn't have a timeline on it. You have to give it time. You can't change things in a moment. It takes time because the thing is, those realizations take time. It takes time for you to understand what it is you want, what your dreams are. You might think you know what your dreams are, but you don't. It's like an exercise I go with people is okay, how much do you want from the business today that will pay your bills and pay for your lifestyle at the moment? And we go through an exercise. Well, I ask them that question first of all, and they'll come up with a figure. Then we'll go through the exercise of individually writing down everything that they spend in that month. And then they'll come up with another figure. And that figure will, I think, 99.9% of the time be higher than the figure that they think that's
Mm.
spending. And then it's like, okay, you know, you don't really know what you're doing, do you? You don't have any idea, because we just live life and we just pay bills and we go through life sleepwalking, I like to call it, because we're not paying attention to what we're doing.
Mm.
So until you get that clarity of what it is, until you know for sure, because we work better with certainty. So until you have that certainty, you can't make any changes. And I think that's where I am right now, is that I'm getting that certainty. You know, we spent the past 6 months kind of putting together different goals for the future. And actually now it's like, okay, well, I want to do some building. Let's see where it takes us. But I know that the building I'm doing is going to be structured in a way that doesn't affect me.
Mm.
And that's the important thing. So now it's like, okay, sod them all. Let's just get back to where I was.
Mm-hmm.
Not financially. I mean, it's like you were saying earlier. Yeah, I should have been retired last year. You know, everything was that I was doing was, you know, being retired at 55, and then, you know, and living off my rents and that kind of thing. Which, you know, last year all my mortgages would have been paid off, and you know, I'd have what, you know, 5K a month in rent. So, you know, I wouldn't have to do anything. Happy days. No mortgage, 5K in the bank. Thank you very much. But on the scheme of it, now I'm renting. I'm certainly not earning 5K a month. But it is, I have a chance to build on that and, you know, get me back to being happier.
Mm. Oh, I love that. Being happier. Yeah, pursue the happiness.
100%. Yeah.
Mm.
If you're not pursuing that, then what are you doing?
Absolutely agree. Absolutely agree. Because, you know, the old saying, you know, money can't buy happiness, right? They can buy lots of things, but not happiness. And yeah, pursue happiness. I love that as a kind of goal. And I guess like it's also pushing you to be creative, right? Like if you've got restrictions and you've got lots of like walls and no's, you come across as a person who doesn't take no for answer. Like you're so creative, you think outside of the box. So it just now pushes you to actually like be even more, right? Like deliver, be more creative so you can satisfy your goals and yeah, your ambitions, your happiness, you know, all these kind of things in life.
Absolutely. I think it was because one of my main goals was to see my son through school.
Mm,
That was kind of the one and only goal, really. And so when that it was the end of last year, I was kind of lost because he'd finished school. He was out of school. He was working, and it was like, oh, okay. It was, my goal was gone. I had this hole that I didn't know why I had the hole, and it took a bit of time to realise that, oh, actually, the hole is a missing goal. I don't have anything to work for now.
mm,
So then it was time to work on myself,
mm.
because I hadn't worked on myself for so long. Now was the time, and it's just taken a culmination of the months and to work through it and think, okay, what is it that I want to do? How do I want to do it? Where do I want to go? Who do I want to be? Where do I want to be? And answering all these questions and taking you there.
Oh, love that. Love that. Creating crystal clear clarity in your life, which then enables you to take actions, give you energy, give you people, opportunities, everything, isn't it? And it starts with simple pen and paper, right? Very simple tools, but lots of us get.
It's just talking with someone that understands what you're going through, and that's the thing about, you know, what I find with business coaching is that I've been there. I've, you know, from my early days, from my first job, you know, I learned how to run a business. You know, even though my first job was McDonald's, which you think is this huge multi-million, billion, trillion corporation, actually each store is its own business.
Mhm.
You know, you have to do the, you have to do the, 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 the ordering and the deliveries. You have to work out the staff rotas. You have to work out the profits. You have to cash up. You have to, all these different things that you have to do. Well, that's how you run a small business. Okay, you didn't have to worry about the marketing, but you could see what they were doing with the marketing, and because of that, you didn't have to worry about the sales because people were just there. But it was, from that day and ever since, I've only worked really in small business and, owner managed businesses, and I've started businesses and I've closed businesses. So I understand what people are going through. And I always say you cannot give anything that you've never been through.
Absolutely, I agree.
You don't know. You've never been there. And I also say that actually you need to speak to someone who have been through adversity, because it's not the good times that make you a success. Anyone can run any business when it's good. Because you don't have to do anything. When it's good, everything happens. No matter what you do, the sales come through the door. You do this, you put an advert out, you do some social media. Things are good. They're flocking to you. Oh, it's great, fantastic. What happens when they're not? What happens when they don't do that? What do you do? That's the time when you need some help. And if you're going to someone who hasn't been through it, then I find it very difficult that they can even appreciate what you're going through.
There is actually the analogy I want to use with this, like going to the person who experienced, right? Like the expert that you only can hire is the person who actually experienced this fairy tale story. The king fell off from his horse and broke his leg. And his doctor is coming, try to assist him, try to make him feel better. It's not happening. He's ordering to go and bring other doctors from other kingdoms, and all these best specialists coming and try to fix him, make him better. And he just became so annoyed, and he said, "You know what? Just bring me someone who fell down from the horse."
Absolutely, because they're the only ones that will know what he's feeling and how he's feeling, but also know the solution to get them out of it as well.
Absolutely. Wow, Philip, what a wonderful and powerful story that you just shared with all of us. Honestly, like
Pleasure.
it's been roller coaster of all sorts.
It's never ending. I mean, it doesn't stop. It's all the time. I come across barriers that I think, oh, okay, now I've got to do this one again and this one again. It's just never ending. It's ongoing. People always think that, talk about rehabilitation and all that kind of stuff from prisons. There's no such thing. Nothing, speaking from experience, my sentence never stops. I'm in prison for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
Even though I have freedom to walk outside, actually, I'm still in prison. And until the laws change, I will always be in prison.
Yeah, it's something that you will carry for the rest of your life, really, isn't it?
Absolutely. Well, it's not just the thought process and the mindset, but is the physical barriers that are around
in society. Absolutely, yeah, that's how it's designed. But I feel like like you're sharing all this, and I almost feel, I don't know whether you believe in spirituality, the greater good, or whatever out there, but it almost sounds to me that you were destined for something big and better. You were destined to just push through those challenges and like use your creativity like you never done before, because you already were really creative, quite, I guess, active, inspiring at the start of it, like very, very early, right? In your examples, when you became manager, you always were trying things, but that wasn't good enough, Philip, for you. Like life decided, let's push him a bit more. He's able to give more for sure. We're gonna squeeze more juice out of him.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the thing is, it's as have many people, most people probably. We all have adversity through life, but it's how you look at that adversity. I take the big adversities through my life and I use them to empower. I use them to inspire, and I use them to create something more positive. I got kicked out of school what did I do? I went to university, I went to college and got something better from it. My first divorce, from that, I used my energies in creating wealth for myself by building businesses and having that ambition and those kind of things. From going to prison, it took a bit longer, but actually from that comes, the empowerment and the inspiration that I can bring through my speaking and helping people that way and going into schools and talking to the kids and those kind of things, inspiring them and bringing them up. There's always something positive that you can do and you can take from all situations. And I think you're right. The universe does have something better for me. I'm just waiting for it.
Well,
That's wrong. You can't wait for it. You've actually got to go and find it. You've got to go and take it. And that's the difference between, probably myself and many people, is that I don't sit still.
you're doing it already. You're going through motions. You're going through the actions. Yeah, like you said, it's time for you now to recoup and rediscover I think your true potential. I think, for me personally, what I'm sensing, actually discover your strength beyond that, what you thought is possible, and then go and offer that to the public. Go and, offer your gifts and yeah, make place better thing really. For me, that's the purpose of life. Like generally, that's my belief. How I guess I sustain myself through adversity. That we came here to make this place better, one way or another. Through our stories, through our challenges, through all the things that we have to navigate in life. And you certainly that.
It was that I did a live challenge. I'm in another community, and I did a live challenge probably a couple of weeks ago. And actually, that reinforced my thinking of my identity, because some of the questions, they weren't deep questions, but they were deep questions. And trying to come up with something to go live with on Facebook was quite hard. But actually, and you said it just then, it was the thing. One of the questions was how do you want to be remembered? And I gave it a lot of thought, because I thought I have no idea, I don't know. But what I came up with was that I want to be remembered for someone who made a difference. Pure and simple, very, very simplistic, but actually the power behind it is immense.
Absolutely, because once we're gone. That's it. We're literally just like a small grain in a massive ocean. People will forget you very quickly. And I'm just talking this through experience of losing both of my parents and clearing their stuff and thinking. I remember that expensive coat that my mum had, and how much my dad was saving, how much he wanted, like how much he spent. But now it means nothing. Literally just nothing. It's not something I would wear. Like, what do I do with this? My kids wouldn't want it. That's it, just gone like this, and I'm thinking that's what will happen to me. One day, all of my possessions, all of my whatever things just will be gone. But what I'll get remembered by, that's the question.
The question of us being remembered is, again, it comes back to experience. You don't have to die to be forgotten. You just have to not be visible. So as business people, if we're not visible, we will be forgotten. And that's a key message as well, because it is like, when people go networking and this kind of stuff, they've got to keep it up. You've got to keep the consistency up. You've got to keep that momentum going, because otherwise, if you don't go, you are forgotten. People go on to the next person. And it's so we don't have to die to be forgotten. And that's the sad thing about it. It's and that's why I think, by making a difference, people will remember me even when I'm still here, because it's about that powerful thing that you help someone within themselves, and then they will remember you for that.
Absolutely. I agree. I agree. Like I've seen that firsthand, and I'm sorry to bring up my mum's funeral, when we sat around the table and every single relative, like we went round and everyone just stated what they remember my mum by. And honestly, I was just felt so overwhelmed. Like someone said, she taught me how to wash my baby for the first time, give the first bath. Someone said she pushed me to go and take degree in higher education when I didn't believe I can do it. And now look at me. And, all those kind of stories, like she led to use her wedding veil for a friend for her wedding because, back in the days, this was like scarcity. So all those kind of like, I was like, wow, this is amazing. I didn't even know things about my mum that much. It made me think, what's like if I, if that happened to me, what's my relatives, what my
We're
circle
going to
will
say
be
about
saying about
you.
me. So
Yeah.
absolutely, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for sharing this story. And I'm sure listeners and viewers find so much motivation, so much, like you said, when you think it's actually bad, like your story, definitely out there thinking this can't get worse.
They're quite bad. I mean,
But certainly provides the strength that you like don't give up, right? Never give up, and you can carry on one foot in front of another, and you just don't know what's life is preparing for you. And it just, like you said, there were many occasions where you probably thought, what this for, like I don't want to be here, but you are here and you carry on and you're bringing your wisdom, you bring your inspiration to the rest. And like you said, now you've got a purpose. I want to be remembered by something with impactful, positive statements with people. So, yeah, thank you so much. And if anyone would like to reach out to you because they resonated so much with your story, what will be the best way to find you?
well, I mean, obviously they can come and find me on LinkedIn or on Facebook. Just just take my name, find my name. There is one other person with this name. He's my cousin, but I'm not him. So make sure you get the right person. But you'll get the right person because he doesn't post anything, and I post all the time. So yeah, just find me on one of the socials. That's the easiest way.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Philip. And I always ask this question at the end of the podcast. If you have to give advice to younger version of yourself, what that would be?
You know what? That's so difficult because I have so many things. I think I think the probably the key is to find the thing that you enjoy doing the most and stay true to yourself.
Mm,
Really, I think that's it because once these things don't come straight away. We were talking about things taking a long time earlier, and again, it's when you're. I was lucky when I was at school when I was 13, 14. I knew what I wanted to do. Bizarrely, I don't know why that is, but that hospitality training, I still use today. In so many ways throughout my life. I still use them. In COVID, I started the bakery. That's all hospitality. A couple of years ago, I was helping my sister-in-law who had a pop-up burger bar, street food cafe within a nightclub. I was in that, helping her to run that. Now I'm you know working with a pub and that kind of thing. So it's always been there, but I knew I wanted to do it from the outset. A lot of people don't know what they want to do.
mm,
Like my son, he doesn't know. He kind of thought he knew what he wanted to do, but now he's out working. He doesn't know what he wants to do. So I think you need to try things. You need to see what works, see what fits. And once you find something that you do like and enjoy, then focus your energy into that one thing. And then once you've mastered that, then you can start looking at adding different things onto that if you're so inclined.
mm,
Not everyone has that mindset.
I agree. Well, thank you so much again. And yes, it was a pleasure to have you. And I'm going to close the podcast. Thank you.
Pleasure. Thank you very much.